A lot. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of season two of Narc Narc. Who's there? Help! I'm gasping for air. My ride or die, Dana, of course, co-host with the mostest. Couldn't imagine doing this with anyone else. How you doing?
I am just fine. I'm a little nasally because, as you know, I'm still trying to get over something I thought I was over. And, when you think you're okay and then you relapse because you do too much. And so
Called
we're
being a
trying
woman,
again.
right? Right.
That's called
I
being a woman,
we
exactly.
we always talk about finding your group, finding your person. I have to tell you, Dana is so my person. I was in pre-op the other day, and Faith, bless her heart, her thumping gizzard, we're in different time zones, and I'm waiting in the waiting area of the hospital, and she's like, "I'm talking to Aunt Dana," and I'm like, "Do you know what time it is?" And I was like, "Aunt Dana is not awake," and she's like, "Oh yes, she is," and she just flips the phone very quickly, like I'm not allowed to see what's being said. And I said, "Did you wake her up? Did you wake up Dana?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "I beg to differ." She goes, "You can beg all you want. She's talking to me." And obviously she loves me more because she's talking to me and not to you. And I'm like, "You woke her up." And no. So early in the morning, here's my ride or die who's like answering my child and keeping her mind, set on the fact that I'm not about to go in and get, part of my vertebrae removed. And
Yeah,
she's just, this is why when you find your people, and the ones that aren't, let them go. Like, just to hell with them.
100%. But that's what it is. On any other morning, I I might have let Faith wait a little bit, but that morning I knew what was going on, and I knew that if she's reaching out to me already, she's reaching out to me because she needs, for whatever reason. I'm not going to let her down or you down, because the last thing you needed was a kid that is on, your butt about whatever it was. And so it takes a community sometimes, and we have to give a little of ourselves for the benefit of the whole. And it's wonderful and it's fine. The way I looked at it was, it's okay. I can sleep later. I can be tired one day for you and for her. But that's what you do when you love somebody, and that's what it's about. And I think that it's a perfect way to come into this, narcissist podcast, because I mean, that's exactly what a narcissist wouldn't do. I mean, if I
Absolutely.
had done that to my stepfather or even my ex-husband, oh my gosh, I would never hear the end of, "Do you know you woke me up?" and rah, 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 rah. And I could hear my ex right now. "I'm the one that pays the bills around here," even though I actually was the one that did. But, in his mind, it's amazing how they work. They delusion themselves.
They do. And it's so funny because like she's been under the weather and at least once a day I'm messaging her, "How you feeling?" She's like, "Would you stop worrying about me?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, I will not. I will not because that's who we are and I don't do that and I'm not changing who I am. So suck it up, sister."
I know, and it's all right. And I love you for everything about you. But
Aw.
yeah, that's just what we do. But you have to do for other people, for the ones that you love, because that's how you show love, And I get annoyed because it's a trauma response, just like I
Yes.
don't like my picture taken. I don't like attention on me, because from childhood, if there's attention on me, it's the pressure, like, oh my gosh, and I've got to make sure everybody's okay so that I don't get the consequences and whatever. But so it's, for me, it's kind of like how people react, like we were talking earlier and you had somebody say, "Oh, do you say sorry all the time?" Like, it's just a thing that we develop in childhood from
Right.
the trauma. Even though we're fine now and we're very healed, there's still things that are just part of our nature.
Yeah. So we've had so much response, and I am taking down everybody's questions. Please bear with the both of us. If you reach out to either one of us, we will get to your question, we will get to your comments, but I want to make sure everybody is accounted for and we, acknowledge all of it. So please bear with us. I love how everybody is just talking, talking, talking. So I want to read one that I got the other day, and I know I still have such a backlog, but I want to read one because it really just grabbed me. Not that they all don't, but this one really did. And let me get my thick pad of paper here. So it says, "Ladies, I say that with a heart full of love. I came across this beautiful podcast of two of the strongest women I've ever had the pleasure of sounding in my ear. LOL.
Mhm.
And I have to tell you that it was not only a breath of fresh air, but a sense of resilience for myself. I felt alone, uncertain, uneducated, and just downright dumb. I had no idea why. I was always told I was the one doing everything wrong. Nothing I did was good enough or right. I couldn't amount to anything. And I literally became someone who got lost within their own thoughts. The days turned into weeks, turned into months, and turned into years. And as that time continued to go by, I still thought I wasn't even good enough to sit at the table. I would make dinner for my family, and I found myself sitting at the kitchen island enjoying the leftovers while they enjoyed their conversations, their telephones, and each other. I didn't even sit with my family because I didn't felt I deserved it. What hurt me even more, hold on, I just lost my spot. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. What hurt me even more is the fact that I was never invited to my own table. I provided food, nutrition, clothing, a roof over their heads, and everybody was daddy's little girl. I have three daughters, all of which think dad can do no wrong and mom can do no right. I literally get post-it notes stating, I need this done today by my children. I try to address it and tell them that it is not okay to talk to me or any other adult that way. Ironically, they don't talk to their father that way, but they have picked up on how he speaks to me and they all speak to me in the exact same manner. I'm hoping that at some point in time, because you have a lifelong listener, you guys could kind of give me a little way to make this a little easier. I've never thought that this would be my upcoming life, but I don't see it getting any brighter and I only see it getting darker. I want to just go into the pantry, say out of service on the door, and call it a night.
That makes me really sad.
Yeah.
That makes me really sad on a few different levels, but primarily because, well, I mean, I guess I'm just going to start going if you don't mind, because I just have
Please,
all
by
this
all means.
stuff in
And she
my
said we
head.
could say her name. Her name is Patricia.
Okay, Patricia. So like the first thing, like I totally like was there like envisioning it all because I mean, I only have my one son, but when we were still in it with his dad, I mean, you know, especially around the teenage years, that's where a boy really starts modeling his father's behavior. Even though my son would up and down and all around be like, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be anything like him. The verbiage, the looks, the expressions, the way he would treat me, sometimes I'd be like, whoa, whoa, no, 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 that's not cool. And it's so, I mean, the heartbreak of looking in your child's eyes and seeing your abusive spouse looking back at you and hearing it's just, it was really hard. It was probably one of the hardest things I had to overcome after that divorce and after that whole thing was over. Because even though my son decided to stay with me, I often said it felt like I was living with his dad still. It's like it wasn't over because I had him living literally inside my son's body. In the way that he would talk to me sometimes and other times not. But anyway, so I feel that pain. I cannot imagine three of them because you want to love your children, but on the other hand, I know multiple people. One is a very close friend. You have to meet her. That's just an aside, Victoria, or at least talk to her sometime because she was married to somebody in law enforcement, and that was a fun ride for her. But they have two daughters, and the two daughters, it's the same thing. The dad, um, it's just a tough situation. I don't want to get too much into theirs. It's the same situation, but now the two daughters don't really have much to do with their mother, and it's just heartbreaking. I mean, because there's nothing stronger than a mother's love for, well, usually a mother's love
Usually.
for their
Not
child.
for us.
Usually, yes, not for me. My mother doesn't even acknowledge me. So it's hard. It's hard to hear that somebody else is going through that because the one part of me is saying, well, that's your children. You want to save that relationship. But on the other hand, I think that we forget, and I think I've said it before, but we forget that whether it's our children, our spouse, our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, whoever it is, they are still human beings. And regardless of the biological relation and what we presume that that relationship should entail. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they are just not your people. And that's the part I'm struggling with because for me to say what I want to say, which is, well, you know what, it's very unlikely you're going to do anything or say anything to change the way that they are. They have adopted these habits. They think they're in the right. They are watching it from their father. They're likely going to continue down that road. It's a train you can't stop. But I don't want to say that to somebody because if somebody told that to me, that in my mind would translate to how am I supposed to get let go of my own child? I mean, like I
Right.
can't as a mother do that. So forgive me, Patricia, that I don't really have an answer for you because I gave you my answer, but as a mother, I can't even accept that answer. So that's a really tough one. All I can say is that you got to take care of you. And I think if you take care of you, show your children love, set boundaries, and assert yourself, um, that's probably the best way to handle it. And if they come around eventually, they come around. But if they don't, I think that you have to also understand that that's a very possible reality in this situation. It's unfortunate, but it's one that a lot of people live.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back just a second and when where is it? When hold on, let me go back and look.
Yeah.
That she says that the kids leave post-it notes for her with things to do. And I mean, that is something that they learned. They learned that from somebody, and I'm taking it from the dad. And
Right.
so they're seeing how the dad treated mom, and they're seeing, and what scares me is that these girls are in a pattern of learned behavior where they're going to think this is how a man is supposed to treat a woman, and then they're going to get a man just like him, right? And then they're going to
Well,
become the mom, right? They're going to be that mom who is being talked to and treated that way, because they are showing. I mean, she says that they do everything that dad tells them to do and they don't speak to him that way. So they're
oh,
accepting
I
the
see what you're saying.
narcissistic
Okay.
behavior of dad,
Yeah.
but they're also trying to stay on dad's good side by treating mom the way that he treats mom. But they don't say that to him, right? Because she said in here that the dad and the kids don't invite her to the table, and that it's the pattern of behavior, but that they hear how dad talks to her, but they don't talk to dad that way. They only
Well,
talk
they're
to her
scared
that
of him. They're all
way. Right,
scared of him. And
absolutely.
that's why not one of them, they're probably all sitting there, or at some point early on, one of them had, I have to believe, one of them had to have wondered why mom isn't sitting at the table, but never dared ask that question because dad sounds like an asshole. Can I just say that?
Dad sounds like a first rate,
Right?
right?
Let's just clarify that. Patricia, you can't say it. We're saying it for you.
Right? The
And I'm
fact that you
sorry
did.
because we get it. We have married those types.
Yes,
We
yes.
get how you fall in that trap and we understand they're not that way all the time and there's another side of that we understand, but right now what it sounds to me is you're right. I was because I was leaning more towards these three girls sound just like narcissists like him, and they're probably going to end up in romantic adult relationships where they're controlling and, steamrolling over whoever they're with. But you're right. I see your point now because you're right. They are being controlled and they're not piping up. They're not stepping up for mom. They're not taking up for themselves. It's a scary thing. Isn't this
It is.
awful that this is
It
what
is.
happens? And a lot of people don't even sit back and think anything is wrong. They just sit, like, have you ever heard this? My mom used to always say, oh, that's just the way he is. It's just the way it
Oh,
is.
absolutely. And
Like,
it's
it's
just
just
like
such a
nails on the chalkboard.
complacent, yeah, it's like, no, it doesn't have to be though. And if somebody is like Patricia, obviously is very unsettled with this, as she should be.
100%. Yeah.
Thank God. But the only way to get better with that is to get out. And unfortunately, when you're in a marriage and there's children, no matter what age, getting out means risking those relationships. And so, I mean, unfortunately, Patricia, I think you're the only one that can answer your own question. I think you're looking for validation, which we are 100 million% giving you. This is not acceptable. It's not
Yeah.
good. Um, but only you know what you're willing to tolerate and for what reasons. And we all have our reasons. We've all stayed for whatever reasons, and there is no judgment or shame in that. So if you do decide to stay and tolerate this and it's something that only you can decide.
Right. If you'll bear with me for 1 minute, one of the things I wanted to say, and this is something I would do. I'm not offering medical advice. I'm
Yeah.
not offering anything like that. What I would do in this situation is I would start privately doing posting notes to the girls, but not with things to do or things that you demand that they do, like she's saying that the kids do to her. Put something maybe in one of their favorite books or schedule your phone to send text messages, like a posty text message, where you send something like, I thought you looked absolutely beautiful today, and not where it's an open-ended question or, put on a posty note, I'm so proud of how you're doing in school. Not an open-ended, just something like not how was your day, where they're going to come back and be snarky, but make it a statement where you say something like, you know, I'm so proud of how great you're doing in band. I'm so proud of how great you're doing at your job, if they have an after-school job. Or, you're doing phenomenal in XYZ, whatever it is, for each of the kids, and start doing the post-it notes because the kids are in that primitive age where they're like thinking about it. And in their mind, a post-it note is a demand. A post-it note is a do it now. These are kids. They're not supposed to be that way to their parents, right? And I damn well sure bet that they're not post-it noting the dad. Okay. And two pugs and a push doesn't make a father. Let me just put that out there, right? And so take the mindset. I would take the mindset where it's okay, every time they demand something, you know, they get a post-it note and just, I need this now. I need you to do this now. Do my laundry, clean my whatever that the post-it notes are saying. Take it and reverse it. Reverse it where it's like you put something simple. Like maybe the dad goes into the room to tell him, I don't know what the possibility is, but like maybe in their bathroom drawer, open the drawer and put something that says, "Hey, you did awesome at the soccer game on Saturday." Or, in their closet when they pull the light down or they flip the light on. I just showed my age. Or, they flip the the switch, in their closet, put a note on the door or something that just says, you know, I couldn't be prouder of everything you're accomplishing. Just every time you get a negative, like every time if I was her, if I was Patricia, this is what I would do. And like I said, I'm not giving that kind of advice. If I was Patricia, every time I got a negative note, the next day I would put a positive note with a statement, not an open-ended question, for that individual child.
That's a good idea.
And then let them start thinking, okay, maybe I can start seeing that the post-it notes aren't, heavy, hurtful demands to my mom, and maybe they'll recognize that she's doing all this stuff for me. I don't need to do these post-it notes because my dad does it. I mean, she's doing this. She is doing my whatever. She is cooking my meal. She is helping whatever, and start small. Even the small step is a forward direction. And so just doing something as simple as a post-it note of positivity is huge. And don't make it be like, oh, you and your friend have a good time tonight. That's so generic. Make it very specific because their demand is very specific, right? Do my laundry, have it done when I get home, period. I'm so proud of how you scored the winning goal on Saturday in your soccer game. Like, just is demanding, but turn it around and be as positive.
And that's a great thing for anybody to do in any situation, to turn it around into a positive. I just feel right now she is everybody's bitch in that house, basically.
Absolutely.
That is what it's sounding like to me. And, there's See, there's this other part of me that, the younger Dana would have been like, you know what? And I am putting this out there, but I'm gonna preface it with this. If this man, if the husband, dad, whatever, if he is actually not safe, if he is not a safe person, and I'm not saying just emotionally, then this is just, we can all just laugh at this and whatever. But let's just say there are certain people in my life that I know they're not going to actually like hurt me physically. And if I had a day where I was feeling bold, be like, you know what? F this. This is my house too. This is my house too. That is my kitchen table. I'm going to sit my ass down on you can see, I got my head going. This is the Puerto Rican in me. I'm going to sit
Here
my
she
ass
goes.
down at that table
There she goes.
and let's see what happens. How about that? Because when you have a dynamic it's the way it always been, isn't working out for Patricia, somebody has to change that dynamic. Those girls are scared of dad. Dad sure thinks he's the king of the damn house and running the show. What if Patricia decided she's going to put her queen crown on and sit her ass at her own kitchen table for once and change the dynamic? The look of horror I can only imagine, and I wish I could be there to see it on this man's face. But again, and I cannot express this enough, you don't screw with a man that is potentially going to take something like that and turn it into an aggressive situation. So I am not suggesting that, but assuming that is not the case, I just wonder what would happen.
Well, I just want to say one more thing and then we'll move on. I really, when I read this, I read it a couple of times, and to me it also sounds like the girls are trying to play the safe haven in regards to the fact that they know dad screams. He probably, they're talking and treating him one way, and they're treating mom a different way. But they're not screaming at her. They're screaming at the paper because I think deep down inside they feel for mom. Like the girls, kind of feel for mom. And I mean, there's not enough explanation in here, but maybe they yell at her when he's around, but then when he's not, that's why they do the posting notes because they don't want to yell at her. It's still mom, right? And maybe they feel that, but they're also petrified of two pugs and a push because I'm not calling him dad, but like that could be another thing, right? And so it's a very complex situation, especially without knowing more of what the situation is other than what we've got. But I
Yeah.
just I don't want her to lose hope on the fact that, you know, there is a possibility. I mean, they could just be really scared of him.
They could be, or they could be just like him. And there's
Right.
three of them. So it could be an intermixed situation that we don't know. That's why I just want to focus on Patricia, because at the
Right.
end of the day, the only person you can control is yourself. The only thing you can change is how you respond, how you react, how you behave in any situation. And when she gets these demands, I want this now, my response would be to write on the bottom of that note and say, I'm not able to get to it right now, but I can do it on Tuesday or whatever. Or if you need this done right now, then I suggest maybe you ask your sisters or your dad, and I would put that post-it note right back up wherever whoever's going to see it. And it's not me being defiant, but I'll be darned if somebody's going to demand of me. I've lived that life, not doing it again, because it does not resonate with anybody to feel like you are a dog on a leash. Like you're supposed to obey the commands and that's all you're there for.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. The next one's just kind of, I thought it was just hysterical. So
Oh,
prepare. If
good.
you
We
need to
need a
cough,
lighter one.
yeah. If you're going to cough, go ahead and cough because this one is hysterical. Yep, I knew it.
Okay.
Howdy, y'all. I can't do it. Howdy,
Oh,
y'all.
I love it.
Howdy, y'all. Okay. I have to tell you guys, I can't do the voice. I'm trying. Howdy, y'all. I'm trying to do, I can't do it.
Oh, just read it.
Okay. I want y'all to know that I think the two of you are downright hysterical, knee slapping hilarious. First of all, who in the Sam hell would ever think a Puerto Rican and a redhead could do what y'all do? Oh my God. And on the rare occasion that one of you two Spitfires decide to like revvy up y'all's engine and let it out, I just live for those moments on y'all shows. I am waiting on the day when Miss Dana starts talking in Spanish because then I know someone's drifted up her skirt and blown it up. It seems that Miss Victoria is a little more feisty when it comes to protecting those that she cares for, helps, and loves. Dana's the same way, but I also can imagine that Victoria gets very quiet when she's angry before it's like calm before the storm. I'm just asking, it's kind of like this is kind of my like request to a DJ if I called into a radio station. I just would like to see my cutesy little Puerto Rican and my hot redhead all of a sudden just let it go and she starts talking in Spanish. Victoria's spinning her head around because we don't know if she knows Spanish or she'll understand what she's saying. And the two of y'all just go at it and have a field day. Let us know before you do so we're not sitting on our porch drinking tea and it goes everywhere.
Well, here's the problem with that is that I understand Spanish, but speaking it is a whole other thing. It does not, there is no language that you can think in your head of a sentence and just directly translate it over. So, because the grammar and the word placement is all different. So, like when my grandma talks to me in Spanish, I understand it, and she says a lot of crap under her breath in Spanish, and I love it because nobody around us understands, and we can laugh and giggle and have our moment. But I am not, and you know what? The thing about it is, and I'm going to say this in my defense, I have worked very, very hard to get a little more zen and a little more healed and to not react. Because to me, reacting is a sign of unhinging and unhealing in my life. So I spare most people. Now, if you had my husband on here, he could tell you some stories because I am that person too that I get very, very quiet. If I am quiet, there's a problem. And if I am quiet, you better run for cover because I never know when this girl is going to blow. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth ever, but it's unfortunately all in English and it usually is very colorful language. But it is not Spanish and I am so sorry to disappoint.
I think
But
it's hilarious. Blow your skirt up and ruffle feathers.
well, my skirt has blown up once or twice, and well, people get a surprise for sure because
I can't. I can't. I can't.
Doug
I can't.
likes it.
No, because I'm thinking of something that you wanted to like. I can't even say it. It has like.
No, I wouldn't be wearing those because I don't wear anything. Yeah, I know, but I don't wear those. That's just for fun.
Oh,
You
see now people are gonna want to know what you're talking about, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
know.
doing it. That
Yeah,
nope
no. I'm a
nope.
commando girl, so if I have a sundress on, there ain't nothing underneath. I'm saying. But
Wow.
no, but those are just for fun. That's but because you have to have something on to have that, and nobody needs to know what we're talking about. Sorry, people.
Wow.
You
Wow.
gotta live life, Victoria, and we all like a little fresh air.
Right. Okay. Let's move forward. Let's just move
Is that
on.
Puerto Rican enough for the scale?
Maybe. Maybe.
That wasn't in Spanish, but that's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Miss Dana, I've read both of your books. I am in high school, and I read them both with the hopes of some clarity as to what could possibly be going on with my dad and my stepmom. My father has always been a quiet, calm, and gentle person. He literally jumps at the sight of anything. My stepmom, on the other hand, reminds me of the stepmom in Cinderella. Horrible
Mm,
reference, but I'm trying to do the
yep.
best I can. I'm nervous that I'm writing to a published author to whom I admire ever so much for putting out the truth. I am confused as I am a multi-home kid. Is that like a custody?
Yeah, it's when you get shifted from one place to another all the time.
They
It
call
drives
it a
me crazy.
multi-home?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
different terms for it. Yeah.
I am a multi-home kid, and I feel it's not fair for the kids because we spend 1 week at one place and 1 week at another. And the purpose of my telling you this is because last week I was at my biological mom's and I needed something from my dad's, but my dad was at work. So, of course, the stepmom answers the phone, and I asked her if she could bring it over, and she literally chewed through my phone, ripping me into pieces, making me cry because she said I was forgetful and it was my fault and I would have to do without. When I tried to talk to my dad said I shouldn't have tried to upset his wife. I wasn't trying to upset his wife. I had forgotten something. And if truth be told, what it was something for school, and I desperately needed it. However, my mom ended up taking me back over there, and when she took me back over there, my dad had yet to return, and my stepmom would not let her in the house. So she wouldn't even bring out what I needed. And so my mom and I ended up driving around. So my dad came home from work and finally let us come in to get it. I don't understand why my dad accepts this behavior from his wife, his current wife, but I'm writing to you because the similarity of you being married, I understand that in the role you would have been my dad, but I'm just looking for some guidance because I am so lost. I'm unable to drive. I'm only 14. Good for her.
Mm,
For I'm only 14, but I've like I said, I feel like I don't know what to do to try to make the situation more tolerable for anyone. I've never wanted to be 18 so badly because I just don't even want to be around this person ever again.
yeah, I get that.
You have a 14-year-old like mega like lover. Like she loves your books. That's awesome.
That's amazing and that's very sweet. But I'm just like my heart is breaking for her because I so like feel for her
Well,
because
I want
like
to say kudos to her for like just before I shush and let you run. I want to say kudos to her because first of all, she's 14 and she went looking for answers. She went looking for how can I relate to this situation? How can I make the situation better? And she came across your books and so she read them. So, I mean, good for her. She took
yeah,
initiative, right? And I think that
it
she
does.
deserves huge applause for that.
Oh, huge applause because I mean there's so many people. I mean most people, it's actually statistically proven that you don't even really understand that your childhood affected you until you're usually like in your maybe late 30s to late
Early 40s.
40s days on average. And, you know, it all kind of hits you. And then you've got to unpack an entire life of crap that you've dealt with because of the crap from your childhood. So
Yes.
whenever I see so I am 100% with you that I mean when I see somebody that's that young and is that aware that like this is not right, this is not okay. What makes me feel bad though is that, you know, like it like takes me back there, you know, because I mean I was not the only time I was scooted around was during the first few years in my life, which I ended up taking out of my second book because it was my publisher was confused by it and I didn't know how else to, but I lived with my great grandma, but sometimes I would go to my mom's and sometimes I was at grandma's house and something, but and so in that sense like that alone for a child is hard. I don't care if you're 5 or 14. The way I always felt was like I didn't have a home. I had places I stayed, but I didn't have a place where I really lived.
So you felt
And
like you were living out of a suitcase.
was always being, yeah, there was no stability. You know, it's probably like what army kids feel like. And, you know, like in this case in divorce, that is something that unfortunately is common. Everybody you know, fights over the custody of these kids like they're trying, but it's more, it's not, and forgive me, I'm going off on a tangent, but it pisses me off when people don't really want to spend time with their kids, but they just want to stick it to the other person by fighting for their weekend or their week or whatever it is. It's just like, my God, let the kid go with the one who loves them and wants them, please, because it's so much better for the kids. Because forgive me for, you know, so to partially answer this girl, you know, I don't know dad. I don't know his psychology. I don't know his upbringing. And unfortunately, without all that, why he's being a puss and not standing up to his wife. Believe me, I see people every day that are like that. And it's what makes the world go round is that we're different. But obviously he's terrified of her for whatever reasons, probably something in his childhood. This is who he wants to be with, and this is what he has decided is okay. What pisses me off is that, if he doesn't want to be a father, if he doesn't want to be the one who can take off of work to go get his daughter the crap that she needs for school out of his house, if he wants to be participant in her being moved around so freaking much, then you know what? He needs to be a little more involved in this, but he's not. And you're not going to, it's just like the last one. Unfortunately, you're not going to change grown people. Maybe, but they have to be the one to see the change, to want the change.
Right.
But where does that leave this girl? This leaves this girl with an evil stepmother, a mother that can't do anything about it, and a dad who won't do anything about any of it. So, unfortunately, again, it's just kind of like we have to take the bull by the horns for ourselves. And I just hope that this girl knows that, no matter what that stepmother says, no, it has nothing to do with her being forgetful. You know how many times I leave the house and I have to turn around or I get to where I'm going and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot this. Like it's like the main thing I left, and you forget, or you leave the grocery store and the one thing you went there for is the one thing you show up at home without. And you're like, mother trucker, like, don't make me go back. It happens. We're human. And obviously, this evil stepmother is a see you next Tuesday, and I'm done with that. I just can't deal with people like that. But unfortunately, this girl does. So the countdown starts, and we're all going to be wishing that 18 comes for this girl sooner than later. And so I defer to you because I unfortunately don't have an answer. When you're 14, the only answer there is to a situation like that is to fight for emancipation, but you need lawyers, you need money, you need people to help you. And if she has that, great. I couldn't get that. I didn't have that opportunity. But I know people, I know two people who were emancipated very young, but that's a whole other life that, has its own challenges.
Right.
So,
No, I agree. I agree. First of all, I think she's smart. I think she's really
oh,
smart,
definitely.
to go out and to take the time and find out how she could, find some information and then she reads about it. I don't know the situation about the custody. Maybe you can petition to get full custody with mom. I mean, mom sounds like she cares. Mom sounds like she's
Yeah.
there. I mean, she immediately stopped and tried to go get everything and make phone calls and, and help her. And maybe, if there's a joint custody, because there's nothing in here about the specifics of custody, but she's saying, that she's, multiple places, then maybe it's a 1 week here, 1 week there kind of
Yeah.
situation, and they have joint custody. So if that's the case, and it depends on your state, I believe that at a certain age, you can go to the judge and say, my choice is that I really want to live here. And then maybe you only have to tolerate on holidays or things of that nature. And you can talk to the judge and tell the judge, I don't feel safe. She's vindictive, she's heartless, whatever the case may be, and say, this is my dad's choice, but it's not mine. I have a wonderful mom, obviously, because there's joint custody. I'd rather spend my career of high school with her and, whatever, a day, maybe like a Saturday once a month or whatever. Tell them what you're comfortable with, right? And say, this is what I want. And it sounds like maybe if you just what it sounds like, if you tell your mom that you don't want to be every week, every other week, every whatever the case may be, that maybe this can be done, and if your dad cares about you but he's afraid of the witch, then maybe he'll fight this quietly and then just let it happen for you, because the first thing is first is you're the
Yeah.
priority. And my heart breaks, but I mean, you're so smart. You're a smart girl. Do not let this affect your school and your school career. Don't, let it depress you. You keep your head up and remember. And, even if when you are at your dad's at this point, I'm sure you can call and talk to your mom every night until she can do something about it. She can put in a petition, and do these things. I'm not giving legal advice, but these are things that can be done. And it just find yourself when you're with your dad doing all sorts of things. Like maybe, hey, I got a huge test. I've got a huge paper due. I've got this, I got that. I'm going to volunteer at school. I'm going to, get a part-time job. I'm going to do whatever until and make it sure that you're doing all that when maybe a study group or, maybe after school activities or get into a club or something like that where you're technically at their place for that period of time, but you're not having to be there that whole time because you're involved in all this other stuff and then nobody can dispute it. I mean, who's going to say, no, you're with me for this week. You can't be in the academic club. No, you can't, go and volunteer at the children's hospital, whatever the case is. I mean, a good parent is not going to say no to that. And
Yeah,
these are
no,
things
I
you
mean,
can
that's what
do.
I did during high school, especially. I just joined whatever I could, even if I just was like, oh, I'm studying with some kids, even if I was by myself after school, I would just stay at school until the late bus because my God, it just meant me not being at home. And they didn't care because they didn't want to deal with me. So it was better off that way. But
Right.
I would even take it a step further. And again, it's kind of like that last one, but I feel like I'm just like bold today or something. But, you know, the stuff on the phone, that's called verbal abuse.
Yes.
And abuse is abuse.
Document
And
whatever you can.
I think if there's documentation, but specifically if it's recorded, whether it's video or audio, I would start recording these things and go to somebody at school. I know that I had a counselor in my high school that was assigned to me, and I also had a teacher. I think I talked about that in the book that there was one
Mhm.
teacher that I had that kind of saw me for he saw through me. And so I felt like I could eventually confide in him. I would be taking those things to somebody else. And if they wanted to call child services, which actually, if they're a school, they would probably be liable and responsible to do that. I don't think that's a bad idea because then when mom or whoever, anybody petitions the court, that will be brought in as evidence and that will be considered. And that will be considered more than a 14-year-old that just doesn't like her stepmother. And I'm not saying that dismissively. I'm saying that
Right.
because in a court of law right now, that's what they're going to look at it as, is that you're just not happy that dad got, believe me, I've had every scenario put on my plate. So I already know how they think before they're going to think it. But right now we live in a beautiful time. I wish that back then I had had evidence. I had a cell phone or something that could record these things. We didn't have those things back then. We had witnesses if there
Yeah.
were any. And even then, people were scared, just like the
Yes.
mom with the three daughters. So you have a cell phone, probably, you have anything, record these conversations before you even get, and don't go looking for fights. But when you're, if nothing happens in that, then you can just delete that conversation, delete that recording, fine. But when stuff is happening, when you hear her coming up those stairs or you're on the phone with her, she answers, you press record. You start collecting evidence because that is going to hold up more with child services and a court of law. And honestly, I think this woman needs a little visit from child services
Yeah.
because if I lived anywhere near these people, I would not be able to sit by and just watch this poor girl get treated the way she's being treated because this is exactly how people grow up to be like me and you. And I mean, we're great now, but
We
we
weren't then.
weren't for how long?
Yeah.
We
And
weren't.
if I don't know what kind of phone you have, and I'm going to tell you, you can, I have an iPhone, and you can set up the iPhone where the top button on the left will instantly record for you. And it does make a little beep, but what you do is hit it before, and then if you black out the screen, it will look like nothing's going on. And so it won't trigger a question of, well, why are you recording me? Because all teenagers are going to walk around with their phones in their hand, right? Everybody does it. I mean, most adults do. But if she's walking around and, she hits the button, program your buttons. Like you can go into your settings and set your buttons up where I have mine where the top left, very top left is record button. And you just tap it and it records. But then I go back to my home screen so that if I put my phone down on the table while I'm having the conversation, then it doesn't look like I'm recording. And if she is as evil and narcissistic as she's obviously sounds like, she might also start to get paranoid and she'll want to try to trap you. Well, if that's the case and your phone's sitting on the table, she can't say anything because she won't know, right? You can't dispute a recorded conversation. That you just can't. And so,
No, you
right.
can't.
And you don't want her to entrap you and say, "Oh, dad, she's trying to do all these things to ruffle my feathers and do whatever it is." Record it, and then like Dana said, you can go into your, recording voice memos, delete it, but then go into your deleted and delete it there too, so that you can't go back and get it, and it doesn't look like you are trying to entrap her. But that's what I would do. I would reset my phone. That's what I've done. And
Yeah,
no,
and there's
I'm a
apps
ridiculous
too.
about getting evidence.
Yeah, I'm an audio recorder. I'm an audio person in general. Just yeah, and when I'm writing my books and whatever, or even just random thoughts, I have like a little app that looks like it, it actually looks like a little corn on the cob, but it's kind of a microphone or something. Anyway, I don't know what app it is, but I just tap on it and just start talking and it'll transcript it out if I want it. It can send the voice file. So, like, I always, for stuff like this where I need supposed evidence because of narcissists and like with my ex, especially with court back when we had to do all that, it's nice to send it to your email. So then it's recorded in Google and that way you can get it off your phone, but it's still out there and accessible if you need it. But yes, the recording is the big thing. And just one more little addition on that is, this girl, you've read my books, then out of gasping for air, that the one thing, from my dad, who's a retired Chicago cop, and the cops that I dealt with trying to get my ex dealt with, um, evidence. They said you have to have evidence in this day and age. They don't do the he said she said
No, they
stuff,
don't.
and especially when you're a minor, your credibility is even less. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to say zero, but yeah, it pretty much is because whatever the adult in charge says, which it sounds like it's stepmom that's in control of the narrative, then that's what's gonna be really pushed.
Right.
It's kind of like politics. The agenda of the more powerful people gets pushed. So you have to have solid evidence that is indisputable. So just start collecting it. That's my biggest thing. Start collecting it
Well,
because that is not healthy for this girl to be in that situation with the stepmom. But the only way out is evidence.
and I want to go and offer something to her. She's reached out to me, and if she reaches out to me again when she hears this, and I have saved her information, and you find a way for me to send you, I'm gonna let Dana tell you, my one of my books, which is Narc Narc, who's there, is about a narcissist, actually two, and all the evidence that I collected. And if you can tell me somewhere that I can send the book to you, I will send it to you. I will send a copy off to you so you can see. And I'm not doing that to show my book. I'm doing that because, and I'll let Dana kind of explain why. My book is nothing but evidence, and you can, kind of get an idea of different things that you can use in your on your benefit, on your behalf, and then it might make it a little easier for you. And then when you're done, toss it. I don't care. Don't let them catch you with it, or say it's a book you're doing for school or whatever the case may be. But that way you can see what different kind of evidence you can get, how to get it, and what to do with it. And then, like I said, I will send it to you for free. I will ship it off to you wherever I can send it to you. Maybe if you tell a friend, hey, I have someone sending me a book, can I send it to your house? Like your best friend or whatever, just tell me and I'll send it your way. But I guess like I don't want it to sound like I'm tooting my horn about my book, but I want her to understand the concept of getting and gathering the evidence.
Yeah, and it's not about tooting your own horn. I mean, it's amazing. And by the way, I'm very humbled that she read my books. So I want to say thank you to her if she's listening to this. But no, what I do love, and I've said it before about Narc who's there. I mean, you're kind of filling in the backstory of what you're presenting, but the whole book, you've got screenshots of text messages between other people, between you and certain people, pictures, letters, emails. I mean, it's just they're shooting themselves in their own feet and they don't even know it. And I think people forget. They get so, you know, egotistical, I guess. They get in their own head and think they're this big shit that nothing can happen to them. And what are you going to do? That they just get careless. And, you know, something like the way this woman is talking to, you know, stepmom is talking to this girl. Well, it's careless to the extent that everyone has a cell phone now, and cell phones can do a lot of amazing things now, like record, which is a basic function. And if you want to repeatedly say those things to somebody, I mean, somebody could argue, oh, well, you know, the girl has to toughen up. She shouldn't be too sensitive, because that's what I always got. And I say, F you. Nobody should talk. I would never think of talking to somebody else's child like that. I
Right.
don't care if you're married to their father, their mother, their whoever, you don't talk to a child like that. That is a sign of a person that doesn't give a shit about anybody but
Right.
themselves.
That's right.
And I have a big problem with that. So yes, I hope this girl is listening and can reach back out to us, but just know that you have our full support. I think I speak for you, obviously, Victoria. I'm
Yeah.
throwing you out there anyway, but I
That's of
know you. I know your heart, so I know that you're with me, that we are
course.
here to support this young girl however that we can. And so we're not attorneys. We can't necessarily give all the advice, but we can give you ideas about ways to go
Yes.
about handling this. But evidence is the key,
And if you
100%.
want to reach out to Dana, you know, you can. You could reach out and give me permission, and I'll give Dana your information and how
Yeah.
to get to you. Um, and like I said, however you want, I want you to see how and the evidence gathering isn't just don't think of it as a ha ha ha, I got you. It's protecting yourself. It's protecting yourself because if this stepmom is the way that you're presenting her, she's going to escalate and it's going to get worse. You need to protect yourself, right? Even if you never use it. I held my evidence. Some of my evidence is 30 years old, right? And I kept it. And that doesn't make me crazy. That makes me sane. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Originally, I started keeping evidence because I was like, I didn't do this. I was accused of this and I didn't do it. And it was really honestly in the beginning there, sweetheart, it was honestly, it was there for me to go back and look at and be like, I'm not who they say I am. I wasn't even there. And they're accusing me. And it's not me, it's them. They will not take accountability. And
Yeah.
because they did something wrong and they won't own up to it, they're putting it off on me. And so I originally started keeping things for my own peace of mind because when you hear it constantly every single day, you begin to wonder, you know, is everything my fault? You know, I didn't ask to come on this earth. I didn't ask to be born, you know, I'm here. But it's not okay for them to put blame on you. And so that's why I originally started keeping things because I wanted to go back and say, you know what? I didn't do this. You know, and it took me into my 40s to realize that I was not to blame for things that I was blamed for in my childhood.
Well,
So
that's
that's the
exactly
reason.
it. That's exactly it. And I don't know that I've ever met anybody that feels guilty. I think when you get to the point of knowing that you need to record evidence and keep, you know, some kind of written or electronic evidence of any type, it's because you're trying to almost even prove to yourself, because that's how it was for me.
Yes.
I was being told, I never said that. You never said that. I never did that. I never, never, never. Everything I saw, my entire reality was negated by not just one person. I had three people, my husband, my mother, and my stepfather, all telling me if I thought I experienced something a certain way, it was wrong. You start to think you're freaking nuts.
Yeah.
When you have everybody in your life telling you that your experience of reality is that far off. So
Yes.
I started keeping the evidence like, okay, let me read this and let me read it again, because I will say this, and it is a trauma thing. This is a normal thing. Because I remember this happening once where I read a text message and I immediately, you know, it meant a certain thing to me and I was offended and it was awful. But then when I calmed down a little bit and reread it, I had admittedly taken it wrongly. And that is a trauma thing because you're so used to people coming at you
Yes.
that that you so sometimes it is good to have it for that, but it's also good to have it so you know what's what. So when they say, I never said that, I never did that to you, you're this, you're that. I don't know. I've got it right here. And am I reading this wrong? Like, look at this,
Right. Why would you
Victoria. Is
have to
this
get all this
like
evidence against me? Why? What's wrong
right?
with you?
But
Right?
it's
It just
good to
ends.
sometimes have another set of eyes on it because that's the thing. If you give 20 recordings to somebody and say, I feel like I'm being verbally abused by this person. What do you think? Just let them listen and see what they think because sometimes even just having that validation, because again, I am just going based off this one letter that she wrote in, but that one incident, the things that the stepmother said to her on the phone, to me, that sounds like verbal abuse. And if you hand me 5, 10, 15 recordings that this woman has a consistent pattern, because you know what? We all have our days.
Yes.
Not saying it's right,
No.
but assuming she is the a-hole that she seems to be, and you can present with evidence a consistent pattern of behavior, that is going to be something that will be held up in court and dad's going to lose custody and hallelujah and amen. And I would love to be there for that day. That's all.
Yes. Okay, I got one more. And
All right.
and this isn't me, so I might just let my sister from another mister take this one. But
Uh-oh.
I read your Nart Nart Who's There book, Victoria, and I have to say it was eye-opening and I downright found it funny. I found it
Wow.
funny. Yeah, I found it funny that you went to the length to go out and basically destroy the people who were your quote unquote family. And like I told everybody from the beginning, I will read every comment and everything, and I will. So I found it
Oh.
downright funny. And I've heard on your show that you say for every one thing that you put in the book, you have 10 to 15 more. So are you going to write another book with the rest of the evidence? Because I have to tell you, I sat down and read this over the course of only a few days, and I was laughing throughout the entire book. I'm hoping that you will do another one.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you that lady that asked for me to let her know when somebody was going to blow their fucking top. Excuse my language, because she wants to get her sweet tea and sit on the porch. Just get your damn sweet tea ready because I'm pissed. That pisses me off. You know what? I get people that hate on my books too and have things to say and shame me, but let me tell you, there is nothing funny about a man using his daughter to cheat on his wife
And
over
granddaughter.
and over and over, and using his granddaughter's illnesses and disabilities to get women, to get material possessions, to have any gain. It's disgusting. And if you can find humor in that, and forgive me, but it's okay to not like somebody. It's okay to not like a book. It's okay to feel how you feel. I do want to pull back and validate that because I don't like being judgmental. But the one thing that I will not tolerate is when somebody shames or judges or laughs, mocks somebody who has been a victim of terrible abuse. Perhaps the things in this book are not enough evidence for this woman. But here's the thing. I think you know this already, but I'm going to say it anyway. You, Victoria, don't need to prove shit to anybody.
Thank you.
Even without this book, those of us that know you and know what you've been through and know the whole ordeal, we validate you. We are on your side and we hear you and we are roaring for justice for you. Eventually, karma will be the biggest bitch and bite him in the ass. But to laugh, to actually go through the effort to write in and say that you found it funny, it's really disgusting to me. You're talking about people that knew that their only grandchild, a child, had been the victim of horrible abuse in the womb, that her father tried, well, I say that lightly, but her biological father tried to kill her in your womb. And what he did to you, it's such a horrific thing to even envision anyone enduring. It's a wonder to me that you're even freaking sitting there and can smile ever and that your daughter is the lovely person that she is. She's a little snarky and funny and sarcastic and all those things, but we love that about her. But the fact that you two are still alive, literally, is a freaking miracle. So to laugh about any part of this because your egg donor and sperm donor were participants in all this and did not a goddamn thing to help either one of you, that infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me that anybody could find any of it funny. And you know, taking all that out of it, you think it's funny that a man is cheating on his wife and involving his daughter and his grandchild? You think it's funny that he's flaunting, you know, young women as if he's entitled to have whoever he wants? That's not funny. It's not funny if whoever this is, what if your husband cheated on you? Would that be funny? Would it be funny for us to laugh at it? No. So that's just very ignorant to me. So, and she's probably whoever this is probably sitting there laughing because you want to talk about narcissistic behavior. They probably think it's funny to get the reaction. And I gave it, it is what it is. But I'm not going to let somebody sit here and mock and laugh at what really is not funny at all. This is the reality that a lot of people face. I know that, you know, I thought about writing a book about my adult life as the, you know, child of two narcissists. And it is very different than the life as a child under their roof. A lot less physical, but still very bothersome and very hurtful. But the fact that you and your daughter were literally almost killed by your ex, and there was participation before and after, and taking advantage of that situation for personal benefit, disgusting. And if that's funny to somebody, well, then there's a nice place in hell right next to my ex that I'm sure you'll be happy laughing down there with him. The end. I'm sorry, but that's atrocious to me.
Well, I thank you immensely for having my back as always. I just want to say, see, I feel bad for this person, and I know you're gonna look at me and go, "What?" I know, and she rolls her eyes at me because there's nothing in this book that's funny. There's nothing in this
No.
book that's funny. It is not a he said, she said. It is a 100% factual book with more evidence than, and I'm saying this to people who haven't seen it, haven't read it, flipped through it, and to find and reach out and say to me, you know, I hope you write another one with more proof because I finished it in a course of a few days and I thought it was downright hysterical. Is it's sad. It's sad. I truly hope that she is not going and I'm hoping that she's not trying to heal from her own abuse and she's, you know, projecting. I'm hoping, but my gut tells me she's a narcissist, hands
Yeah,
down
a
that she's a
hundred percent.
narcissist.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm trying to look at the, you know, the really deep part of it. And I'm I I'm sorry that you took this in a way that it was comedy because it's not. It was my life. It's my child's life. I say all the time, I don't want an adult having to spend their adulthood recovering from their childhood. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what Dana's been doing. And I broke the cycle so that my daughter wouldn't have to do that. And for you to reach out, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for reading it. Like I said, anybody who reaches out and gives me a comment or a statement or whatever, regardless, good or bad or indifferent, I'll read it. Like, you know, I could have gone and not read this, but she took the time. And so I'm taking the time to respond. And I'm sorry you found it funny. And I wish nothing but the best for you. But we obviously don't see things on the same page or the same wavelength. And, you know, I don't have any really other things to say about it because I don't want to stoop to that level and be just the same as this
Yeah, and
person.
there's nothing to say, honestly. I mean, I had a whole mouthful and you're being very gracious. And honestly, you know what? It's not like I haven't gotten, you know, a-holes that have, you know, given my any of my books. Well, no, it's just the one, but you know, given me 1 star, whatever, although I know for certain who that person was, but and they had their reasons, but it's just it's hard. Like if you don't like a book, you don't like a book. But to actually come out, I think I'm more offended at the fact that she's like, well, where's the rest of your evidence? I mean, you think I put all my stories? I didn't put half of my stories in either one of my books. I could come up with that many more too. But it's just not funny to laugh at somebody else's pain and what
Right.
hurt them. I know it was like a year ago, somebody said something to my husband about me, like, oh, I don't know why Dana, feels so strongly about and it was something about, family and whatever. And, well, because I didn't come from a Beaver Cleaver background like that person did, but don't ever judge somebody else, for what they're feeling or what their experience was. I use this example all the time, but I'm going to say it again. Live in a small town and everybody makes fun of this woman. She's probably in her mid to late 30s. She lives in town and sometimes she goes outside for a walk. And she does actually have, I don't know her diagnosis, but she does have some sort of a diagnosed mental
Condition.
situation. But she tells everybody that the stop sign on the end of her block is her best friend and she talks to it. And my thing is why it pains me that people make fun of it because I'm like, thank God that stop sign is there.
She's not
Thank
bothering
God
anybody.
she's not bothering anybody. But that stop sign is there and it's listening to her. And you know why she probably thinks it's her best friend? Because it's not talking back at her. It's not shaming her. It's not mocking her. It's not laughing at her. It's not judging her. And I thank God every day for that stop sign that it's there for her. Like people aren't. So that's just kind of where I come from with this is like, if you think it's funny, that's fine. There are times I'm around people and I feel a certain way about them, but I don't want to intentionally hurt them with what my opinion, and I say that very strongly because it may or may not be right because what you see is not always what is, but I don't want to intentionally hurt somebody. And so for me, I see this as when somebody goes out of their way to be like, "Oh yeah, whatever. I thought it was funny." They're trying they're trying to hurt your I mean, if anybody even knew how much work was involved in writing a book, not just writing it, but let me tell you, the cover design, the formatting, the this and the that and it's exhausting.
It is.
That's why I'm grateful I have people that do that for me. You,
I did
my
all of it.
my love, do it all by yourself. And God love you. Because I know you've told me, oh, just do it yourself. And I say, F that.
Yeah.
So you know what? Not everybody is going to like everybody in this world. I'm okay with not everybody liking me. I'm okay with not everybody liking our books, and that's fine. But to judge and shame, to intentionally cause somebody upset or harm, or to poo poo on any success anybody has had, you're just a shitty human being. That's it.
Yes. And with that, we are going to take a break
Oh,
and come back with another episode here soon. Stucco is right here loving on mama. And we will.
yeah, I need Stucco to come here because this was a rough episode. Can I tell you?
I know, because we found an
We had a lot
extremely brave
today.
14-year-old girl who,
Well, that and then the mom with the three. If I had to live with three of my exes and my ex, God frickin' help us, I'd be in jail.
and then you have, our little
And then this
country
one.
girl that, so I mean, I love that we have such a variety of people who tune in. And, to the person, I won't categorize her as a woman because we are women, but to the individual who was
Oh,
snarky and found comedy in my book, I'm going to take a page from our country friend and say, God bless you. Or bless your heart. Isn't it bless your heart? Bless your
it's
heart.
bless your heart.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm a
I'll say
Midwest
bless your
girl and
heart.
I know that. Yeah,
Or
bless your heart is the Midwest way of saying F you.
what's bless your thumping gizzard?
I don't know. I don't know. They say a lot of fun things in the South. I started talking like I was a Southern girl when I was thinking I was going to move to North Carolina, and now Doug has me stuck up here. So I don't know, but I might start using that and
Bless your
other fun
thumping gizzard.
terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Bless
also
your
taught
heart.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. I taught your daughter twat waffle. So I'm going to say, bless your heart, twat waffle. That's my answer.
I love it. Now I know because she asked me how to sign twat waffle and I taught her and now I know why.
Oh yeah, it's because of me. That's
I
why
love it. I
you
think it's
gotta
great.
love it. It.
But
It's
yeah.
yeah, that was my nice version of see you next Tuesday, but a twat waffle is much more fun.
Yes. Especially because she
Yes.
signs it, nobody knows what they're saying but me. It's great.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
And
you and
next
grandma.
time, mate, yeah, next time for the Southern girl, I'll ask Grandma for some expletives I can say in Spanish. I mean, I know chinga tu madre, stuff like that,
I
but
don't even know what that means.
yeah, it means, well, I won't say it
Sit and
on
spin
air.
on a high heel.
I love that. That will never get old.
I love that. Sit and spin on a high heel, bless your heart.
All right, we're done insulting everybody, so we're gonna go. I think we all need to like have a few deep breaths after this
We need some
episode
sweet
and
tea.
with some stuff in it for sure.
You're hilarious.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody. We'll be back sooner than you know it.
All right. Peace out. Love you.
Love you.